Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf and to another recent reads on Sunday. And at the moment that is not only of course the books that I've read, not so much the books that I'm reading because I'm still doing, if you follow me you know that, the 30 books in 30 days challenge. So I tend to read a book a day, sometimes a book every 2 days, and I have a couple of books on the go, but I'm just gonna, like I said in the previous recent reads, I think focus on the books that I've finished. And I have 4 more, and I'm also happy to tell you that I'm right on track. It's the 20th of August, and I've read 19 books so far. I have a couple of buddy reads on the go that I started in August, so that's 3 or 4 more books that I know I will finish. But I'm still trying to keep up, so there will be a book scheduled for the day. I'm filming this in the morning, so I'm not yet sure which one it will be, but there will be a book. Anyway, on to the 4 books that I finished. The first one, I had a combo of listening to it on audio while I was walking, and also have a physical copy, and that is 3 Martini Afternoons at the Ritz by Gail Crowther, The Rebellion of Sylvia Plath and Saxon. The book was published 2021, if I'm not mistaken, 2022, so I was mistaken, last year. Gail Crowther is an English academic and freelance writer. She published before on Sylvia Plath. This is if I say a dual biography, it doesn't do the book justice. It is about, obviously, the life of Sylvia Plath and Anne Saxon. They are compared and contrasted, but Gail Crowther takes their life, and we will encounter from childhood to death. Both women, you probably know, committed suicide. Sylvia Plath when she was very young, just 30, Anne Saxon when she was in her 40s. So there are also similarities. They knew each other. That's why 3 Martini Afternoons at the Ritz. I mean, the Ritz, they didn't look like this. So it's not that this is Sylvia Plath and this is Anne Saxon. I don't know. But the cover is still nice. But anyway, so they knew each other as poets. They were not like close friends, but it made sense to have these 2 women compared, as the struggles, they have had similar struggles in terms of making it as a female poet in a very male-dominated world. So this is definitely a feminist approach to the poetry and the life of these 2 extraordinary women. And like I said, it takes the life from childhood to death, but it's then within that timeline, it's organized according to topics like marriage, motherhood, writing, mental illness. Both women struggled with mental health issues from early on in their lives. And it is a different, I would say, a different look onto these 2, like I said, extraordinary women. I love this book. I thought it was brilliant. Gail Crowther has a fantastically easy pen. She can take you into these 2 lives, and she has a point to make. And she's not hesitant or shy to make the point about, like I said, the difficulties that these 2 women in the 1950s and 60s encountered. They were both born around 1930, by the way, just in case you didn't know. So they were poets at a time when the literary world, and especially poetry, was even more sexist than it is now. If you're at all interested in either of these 2 women, highly recommend this book. It was a real pleasure to read. And so was the next book, a non-fiction book, a birthday present from Heidi, from my reading life. Jasmine Donahue, Birdsplaining, A Natural History. And this book was published earlier this year. It's a thin little essay collection on bird watching. That is kind of the red thread that is going through, but it is so much more and broader. It is a look, I mean, birdsplaining, mansplaining. It is, again, quite a feminist look on nature, on the encounters you have in nature with other people, the way women watch nature, but I think it's 10 essays or something, 14. So you have a certain bird watching experience, but then she takes that experience and talks about a related subject. So I thought it was not every essay of these 14 I thought were absolutely brilliantly fantastic. That never happens with me with an essay collection. Not even, when I read an essay collection, I don't know, Nora Ephron or something. There's always, a scale. But most of these essays were really, really good. Some of them were brilliant, and they gave me a new look onto this topic. So I thought it was fantastic, a fantastic book and a fantastic present. Thank you again, Heidi. The third book I finished was fiction. This is a rather non-fiction heavy recent reads. On Wednesday, I will film a video about women in translation, because it's Women in Translation Month, obviously August, and I read 4 or 5 so far, and most of them are fiction. So my fiction is concentrated on the translation side. Anyway, I'm babbling, but you know me, I tend to do that, and it's warm. So the next one, fiction, White on White by Ayşegül Savaş. A young author born in Istanbul, growing up in Paris and London, and she now lives in Paris, I think, but this is not a translated work. She wrote it in English. It was published, let me check, last year, first published in Vintage, last 2 years ago, 2021. I had marked another book by this author to read earlier, like 2 years or 3 years ago, and then forgot all about it. So when I saw this, and I don't really remember where I saw this. Somebody talked about it, or somebody mentioned it either on Goodreads or on YouTube, but I can't for the life of me remember. But I switched sort of this older book to this one, White on White, also because it had a theme that I really like in fiction, and that is art. So we have a young student of art history who is working on a thesis, a PhD thesis on nudity in the Middle Ages. And for a year, she has a grant, and she lives in an apartment that belongs to a couple. And the wife, Pascal and Agnes, and the wife, Agnes, is also a painter. And the wife comes to the city occasionally because her art studio is upstairs from the apartment. And then the two women meet first occasionally and then more often. And especially Agnes talks about her life as an artist, as a female artist, but focusing on her marriage with Pascal and the problems that she encounters there, and her children. She has a son and a daughter. So it's about more about Agnes's life experience and the friendship between, or the relationship between those two women, which is not a sexual relationship. It's a friendship with, twists. I liked it, but I didn't love it as much as my expectations were too high, because I was so interested in that medieval nudity theme, and that does not play. I mean, it plays a role, but not as important as I thought it would be. I thought the book would be about that. So that's not the book's fault. That's my fault for having the wrong expectation. But it meant that the book just didn't, wow me in the way I had hoped it would. I'm not that interested anymore reading about, failed marriages and stuff like that. I've been there, I've done that. Not that it can't be interesting, and it's really, really well written, and the language is beautiful, but I picked this book up for a different reason. And again, it's not the book's fault, it's my fault. So if you are thinking, oh no, I don't want to read a book about art, but I'm very interested in marriage, relationships, this kind of thing, read it, because the art takes definitely a back seat in the story. And the last one was, again, nonfiction. That was a book that I've heard about previously when it came out 2 years ago. Yes, 2021. And then I saw it again on Steve's channel, Steve Donahue, mentioning in favorite nonfiction books. And I finally picked it up. And that is Heather Cass White, Books Promiscuously Read, Reading as a Way of Life. Again, a thin little book. I mean, I picked nonfiction at the moment in August that is rather small. I'm reading one or two of the bigger books, but they over the course of the month. But if I pick a book to read in a day, it has to be under 200 pages. So Heather Cass White wrote a book about Marianne Moore, or two books I think, about Marianne Moore, the poet. But this book is about her own reading, and reading promiscuously, so several books at the same time. And it's a combination of celebrating reading, the way Heather Cass White reads, also literary criticism, and memoir-ish aspect. So this type of hybrid memoir, which I normally really, really enjoy, especially if it's about books, because that's. And again, I liked it, but it didn't blow me away. I didn't love it. And that's probably because the literary criticism part that's just not something. I'm not a literary critic. And there were too few women authors, also books by women authors that she talks about, which is always something that I notice. And then my interest is not waning, because I do read dudes, and there are fabulous books written by men out there, but it's just something that sort of at the current stage in my life is not a priority. Let's put it like that. I have a lot to catching up to do in terms of reading women, because I think the first 15, 20 years of my reading life was 80% male authors, like probably most of us. But anyway, so I did like it, but sometimes I felt it was a bit too high on the nose, snobby. I don't think that Heather Cass White, I don't know her, and I haven't read her other books. I don't want to say she's a snobby person, but it was just that type of literary criticism that does not gel that well with me. So give it a try, and check out Steve's review of this. It's in his video about the 10 most loved nonfiction books or something, because he loves it. So he will give you a different view on this book. If you are interested in books about books, probably check out Steve's review, because it's much more positive than mine. Anyway, so those were the 4 books for now that I wanted to talk about on this Recent Reads on Sunday. Again, I'm on track. I said this in the previous video, I'm not talking about all 30 books. There are some books that I'm rereading and have talked about quite extensively, so I'm not going to mention those. I will keep the dudes because I'm also reading quite a couple of books by male authors. I will keep the dudes for the separate video that I always make, the best dudes of the year. And like I already announced on Wednesday, I will focus on the women in translation books that I read or am reading for August. Anyway, this was my last 4 that I wanted to talk to you about. I already started that sentence and then got distracted, as I have a tendency to do. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, please leave a comment if you have the time, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.